image into Photoshop, and let's turn to it, and it's the exact image that you saw previously when we were in Lightroom. All we have done, we have brought it in as a smart object. I just want to show you why we brought it in like that, and that is that if I double click here, we are able to do with it exactly what we could do, and I'm just pointing my mouse across all the adjustments that we've got. Okay, I'm not going to do that because there's nothing that we have done in Lightroom that I want to change at this point in time. Now, what I'm going to do here, I'm going to go in and I'm going to add a little bit of contrast, which I'm going to use using the exposure levels, for which I go Control L. I then just pull this slightly to the right. You'll see I've gone from 0 to 4, and you'll see what the effect will have been. Let me just bring it back so you can see. I've brought in a little bit of contrast, taken that 1 and I brought that into 96. A little bit of contrast here. I'm not going to pull this, that would have lightened it, and I'm happy with this as it is at this point in time. Now I'm going to cheat slightly. I've got a little action that I've got ready here, which just does this. It makes a layer and it selects an RGB channel. So it will, when I play it like this, it will create a layer in which I can do dodging and burning activity. Now what I'm going to do is I feel that I should probably lighten it a little bit here, maybe a little bit here, and a little bit here in order to try and bring out some detail. So I'm going to click on the white. I'm going to drop the opacity to around, let's say 21 should probably do it. Make my brush a little bit smaller. I've also got a slightly soft but not fully soft brush, and let's just brush it in here, and it seems to be doing what I want it to do. Let's go in here. There we go. We're getting a little bit of there. Well, we don't want to whiten it. We just want to slightly lighten it, and that seems to be okay. Now I wouldn't mind a little bit more color coming off those clouds to be in here. Go back here, double click, and I could choose a color here, could choose a color here. Instead I'm going to use a dropper, and I'm going to double click here where there's that color, and I'm going to spread that color a bit. So I go okay, and with that relatively soft brush still, I'm just going to brush in a little bit of color there, which will show that color from the clouds coming in here and reflecting here, so it adds a bit of character. What I'm then going to do, I'm now going to combine these layers. And how am I going to do that? I'm going to hold down the Shift key, Control key, Alt key, and press E, and that takes the visible parts of the layers beneath and it combines them. Having done that, I'm saying to myself, well, what do I need here? I want to show you a quick selection. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the sky above that bank of cloud, and I'm slightly going to change it. Doesn't need a whole lot. So I press this key, which is the quick selection tool, click, and I just take it and wham, I got it to select it by just dragging it across quickly. I got it to select nicely. You can refine the selection. I'm not going to take the time to do it over here. All I'm going to do then is I'm going to click on this little key, which is a new fill one adjustment layer. What am I going to do here? Is all the adjustments I could use. Let us say that I want to slightly reduce the exposure. I click on exposure, and it creates a layer which will deal only with exposure and only where it's painted white here, which is the area that I selected. I click my, pardon me, I then double click here, and inside that area I reduce the exposure slightly, which I wanted to do. Now, a little cheat way, I now want to decide that I'm going to bring a little bit of saturation, maybe a little bit of hue, change it to a little bit redder. So what I do is I press here and I go hue and saturation, click. I then hold down my Alt key and I just take that mask and replace as my layer mask. It's basically taken that mask and copied it, so it's working with the same area. And what I do is I slightly feather that mask, so take its hard edge a little bit and soften it. And I then go to that area there, double click on it. Now bearing in mind, I'm going to slightly redden it. I go -2, let's say, you see that? And I then maybe increase the saturation a little bit, decrease the brightness or increase the darkness a little, and you'll see my sun is getting a little bit more character. If I press this icon here, on, off, on, off, on, off, on, you will see the color depth. Now what do? I decide I'm going to sharpen this area here. Just this area is where I want to sharpen. I'll again Shift, Control, Alt, E, which just takes the visible layers and merges them. I'll then go to a filter which is called Sharpen, and I'm using Sharpen More. Now there are various ways to do this. I'm using this filter because in this instance I think it's going to work well. That's why I've zoomed it up to have a look. Let me zoom out again. I then press here, which gives me a mask. Bang, it's given me a mask. So right now it's applying to everything. I just wanted to apply there. So I take the black brush, I take it to opacity 100, which is full. And what do? I paint that. You'll notice I'm painting roughly. I don't have to be dead accurate with this. And then I invert it by going Control Invert, which means that sharpening applies only to here and not to the other areas, because I don't want to introduce what would appear to be noise. If I wanted another area, I'll just go, for example, let's say I wanted to do this area. I just click back into there and include, pardon me, a white mask, because do not forget, white reveals, black conceals, and there we go. The sharpening only applies to that. Let's take a closer look. If we go off, on, and you'll see it's reasonably subtle, and then here we go, we're back to that, and we're then in a position to go and save the file as we want. Thank you very much for having taken the time to watch this little two-part edit of a landscape image. In closing, it's important that I make a couple of remarks, and that is that my philosophy on editing is indeed get it right in camera, have to edit less. This was a dull, lifeless image, which is a pretty decent image now. I have done it on a quick basis. On a slow basis, there's a little bit more detail to this, but I think you're catching the principles. And I thank you for watching this.